Welcome to See Beneath Your Beautiful, where guests share stories of adversity and perseverance, which inspire, encourage, and challenge us. We embrace these tough conversations, intimately exploring our loves, fears, and hopes with a delicious combination of depth and lightness.
My name is Emma Woolley, and I am a Spokane local. I own a business with my husband, and I'm very thankful that you had me here today. We've been trying to have a baby for 6 years and been unable to conceive. Child loss, miscarriage, early miscarriage, infertility, all of that. It's a really dark world. It's a really lonely world. Honestly, it blew me away when I started learning about how many of the people I know really well have experienced some type of grief and trauma surrounding their family and having a family. I was really blown away. And I felt like I lived in this loneliness and this isolation and this grief and this fear, frustration, all this just like negative nastiness for so long, 6 years. Actually, I would say I felt like I lived in it by myself for 5 years. And last year, I kind of had a mental breakdown and I went, I don't think I can do this level of trauma inside, holding it inside and not sharing it, not talking about it, not living a full, happy life. I don't think I can do this forever. And the prognosis for us is not great to be able to have kids. And even if it was, in 2021, I really realized this will always be part of my life. Like I'll never not have experienced the last 6 years. And so I better start finding meaning in this and finding community and figuring out why is this part of my life specifically. And I honestly don't think that every trauma has to have meaning. I don't think you have to find meaning in everything. But for me, I needed to know that it was more than just this sad and loneliness for the rest of my life. And so I started talking about it, and it's kind of been this a little bit crazy journey. Like there's nothing crazy that's happened, but for me, the revelation of how different I feel today versus how I felt a year ago today. And the only thing that's different is that I started sharing about it. We haven't gotten pregnant. We haven't had a baby. Like there's no hope, like there's no hope, on the horizon or anything like that. But I feel radically different, and I feel happy where a year ago I felt like I was pasting a smile on for everything.
Yeah.
And I feel joy, which I remember about a year ago thinking, when was the last time I actually felt like joyful, where I just had a random moment of like, oh, look at that nice rainbow. It's so pretty. That's not how I ever was thinking like a year ago. There is beauty beneath what's going on. And they also wanted to learn how to balance toxic positivity, that it's also okay to not be okay.
Right.
And that I don't need to always find the joy and the happiness. Sometimes I need to cry.
I love that.
And that's okay. I last year had a really close friend passed away very unexpectedly, and I was really struggling with it. And a friend said to me, sometimes you have to feel the feelings. And I'd never had anybody say that to me before.
Oh.
That didn't even occur to me, to just be able to go, I don't like how I feel. And that's okay. I don't need to always be happy. I don't know if you experience this in the business world that you're in, but I know that I do. And in the entrepreneurial world, in this kind of like success-minded world, there's this like, oh, always find the bright side. Not push down the negative stuff, but just if you don't acknowledge it, it's not there. And if it's not there, then then all you have is positive and the law of attraction, and you attract good things into your life when you put out. And I agree with all of that stuff. I just also think you don't have light without dark.
Right. I have struggled actually with sharing my stories of sexual abuse at 7, because people know me professionally. But the truth is, I'm all those things. I'm that little girl. I'm the businesswoman. I'm a mother. I'm everything that ever happened to me. And the people who don't want to do business with me because I allow myself to be open are just not the people I should be doing business with anyway. What is offensive to say to somebody who is fighting infertility? Is that how you say it? Fighting infertility?
I think everybody has a different idea of how they would say that. Battling infertility, fighting it, dealing with.
What are some kind of things that people say, like, I assume, why don't you adopt is one?
I'll share about my personal stuff because what I'm going through is different than what other people who've dealt with like miscarriages maybe have gone through or children that have passed away. Comparison is a really big trigger for me of saying, well, at least you're not going through your husband dying, or at least you're not going through cancer or, something else that I go, well, why does my pain have to be on that level? And I don't know if this is a woman thing or a human thing, but I think that we all struggle to validate that we have pain to begin with. On our own, we go, oh, it's not as bad as that. It's not worth even saying, it's not nearly what that person's dealing with. Their dad passed away from COVID. Like, I don't have any room to speak about this. And so when somebody else compares my pain to some other worse pain, I go, you're right. I am a crap bag. Like, I shouldn't even be upset about this at all. And then it takes me days to recover and be like, no, my pain is pain. My hurt is hurt. It's okay. Like, right. So that would be one big one.
That's a terrible one.
Saying that, oh, it will all be worth it at the end. Keep trying, keep pushing. When you try for 6 years, you do all the things. Like, we've done acupuncture, we've done natural, we've done interventions, we've done artificial stuff. Like, we've done everything. No doctor can find anything that's wrong with either one of us. We've done so many tests, put out thousands and thousands of dollars, and they have no idea why we can't get pregnant. So when somebody says like, oh, it'll all be worth it, keep doing it, keep doing the supplement thing, keep putting out thousands of dollars, keep trying. I go, you're not God. You actually don't know that we can have a baby. So don't say that, because how I feel about that is that makes the other person feel better. Mm-hmm. They feel better, like they're giving me comfort and they're giving me my big girl panties or something like that. And like, oh, I'm going to help her buckle through one more month or whatever. And the reality is sometimes I just want you to be sad with me.
Right.
Sometimes it's okay to just go, I don't know what to say, but my heart is really sorry. And my heart feels really sad for you.
I'm so glad you're saying that. What people can say.
This bothers me because I haven't fully figured out why it bothers me. So if you have any ideas, I'm definitely open to some armchair theory here. The other one that bothers me is when people say that, oh, this is all in God's plan.
Oh my gosh.
And I go, do you really think it was God's plan that he made me defective? Is that really the plan? I grew up in a Bible believing home. I grew up going to church. I believe in a higher power, and I don't know if his name is God or not, but I believe in the universe. But when somebody says this horrible thing that happened to you and is currently happening to you is all part of a plan, I don't think so.
That reminds me of my thing that I hate the worst is, well, I lost my mother when I was 18. And when people say she's in a better place, I could punch them in their face.
Better than with me, her daughter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't care that she's in heaven or wherever she's at, floating around with angel wings. I want her with me. The reason people are saying these things to you is because they haven't suffered what you suffered, and they are honestly trying to make you feel better. Do you think that?
I think that grief is really uncomfortable for people. Mm-hmm. I've been studying grief in other cultures more. And the more I study it, the more I see that in the US, we're given no tools. We don't learn anything about grief. Mm-hmm. All we learn is from TV and if you go to therapy, mm-hmm. but that has a really negative connotation for a lot of people. And so I think because of that, we are very poorly equipped to deal with pain and with trauma and with grief. So when somebody kind of lays out this really awkward thing to me and I respond and I say, oh yeah, this is a really big grieving time and here's what's going on. They themselves feel like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I'm not sure what to do. Do I ask them questions about this? Am I going to insult them? Are they looking for advice? Like, what do they want? And so I think people just almost like turn their brains off a little bit. And I think that they are trying to make me feel better. I think that's their heart. Mm-hmm. But if they were to stop for 1 second and feel their own grief about it, I think that they would respond differently. Have
you known somebody who has gone through something that you haven't gone through and then later experienced? and finally understood. I'm only saying that because I feel like nobody can understand what it's like to lose a mom unless you've lost a mom. You can get it, but you can't get it. I don't know how you're feeling. I have sympathy for you and I'm sad for you, but I don't know what you've gone through. And I might have in the past said something stupid trying to make you feel better. So I assume that everybody's doing the best they can.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying is that I don't think anything's malicious from any of these people, but people are, like you're saying, they don't know what to say.
I think that it's so important for us to talk more about our situations, because even what you just said about your mom and people saying, oh, she's in a better place. As soon as it came out of your mouth, I went, yeah, that's a horrible thing to say. Better than with her daughter, with you? How does that make you feel? But I probably would have been somebody that would have said something. And if somebody didn't point out to me like, oh, that might not be a helpful comment.
I appreciate all the things you're teaching me also, because I don't know.
I think a big one that people do, I think every person doesn't want this, is unsolicited advice.
Right.
It doesn't matter what your situation is. If you share a vulnerable piece of your heart and say, I'm really struggling in my marriage right now, and then somebody else says, oh, have you read this book? Oh, have you tried this? Oh, no, I just wanted to tell you as my friend that this is hard for me. It's a rough day.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the most common responses I get from people is, we'll talk about infertility and here's a solution. Have you tried this? Have you done this? And I will say that for the first 5 years we were going through this, I felt so triggered every time somebody would give me advice. I wanted to punch them in the face because I wanted to say, I've been doing this for 5 years now. Do you think that I haven't tried that? Do you think I haven't read that book? I mean, some of the stuff they tell you about fertility, it's absolutely ridiculous. The stuff that we've tried.
Like what?
Okay. So, oh gosh, this one doctor recommended this one book that I read, and their magic cure for getting pregnant was a routine that you and your partner go through that starts with the week before you ovulate, only eating goat's meat and goat's bread pudding all week. That's all you both eat. That's it for a week. And then the day of ovulation or whatever your chosen day of conception is, you get home from work at 5. Like they had a whole agenda. You get home from work at 5, you do a 20-minute meditation together. You cook a very specific pre-intercourse meal together. Then you take a 1-hour nap, and then you do like a 20-minute breathing exercise back to back with each other. And then there's a very specific instructions for lovemaking. And I mean, it all culminated in at the moment of ejaculation, the man is supposed to breathe out because in order to breathe life into the world, you have to also die. And it was, I mean, I was like, we're not doing that.
Do it? Oh, okay.
No. Are you kidding me? My husband would have never done that. Absolutely not.
I'm stressed out thinking about it. That doesn't sound like romantic
so much pressure.
It sounds like so much pressure. Yeah.
So much pressure. Oh my gosh, no way.
The hour nap is actually the most stressful part of it. Like, how can you force yourself into a nap? I'm so stressed out.
Exactly. But I think, going back to something that you said, I think that trauma is bonding. You've never been through this, so I've never been through losing a mom. But I think that there's something in your souls that connect when you go, hey, here's this shit that I've been dealing with. Mm-hmm. And somebody else goes, hey, here's this shit that I've been dealing with. Mm-hmm. And it's not in a comparison way. It's almost like your souls just kind of go, we're bonded in pain. And I think that's really valuable.
We don't have to live in the trauma. So that brings me to, you have a blog. Is that correct? What's the name of that?
It's called Grateful and Grieving. And the idea behind it was a few months ago, I wanted to start journaling, and I'm really bad at journaling. And I'm really bad at doing it consistently. So I thought, well, if I have kind of a public forum where I post my thoughts, that will at least keep me a little bit accountable because I know people are reading it. Mm-hmm. And so I started this blog, and I started to find a lot of healing in just writing about my experience. And it's a day-to-day account of what it's like to be grateful that you're alive and grateful that I am healthy and I am in a really good place in life, but then also to respect the grief that comes along with infertility and to not try to only look at one or the other, because I don't want to live in only pain.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of women that they go through infertility to go through a miscarriage and that rules their world forever and they can't get past that. And I didn't want to be like that.
Yeah.
But I also didn't want to be on the toxic positivity side and say everything is all happiness and rainbows and lollipops, because it's not. A big one that can be painful for people dealing with infertility is watching other people successfully have healthy babies.
Mm-hmm.
And there can be a lot of pain caused when somebody has not dealt with infertility and then their friend who is struggling pulls away from them and doesn't want to talk to them and doesn't want to be around them, doesn't come to the baby shower, doesn't come to, anything, doesn't like the post of the birth announcement or whatever. And sometimes it's not personal. We're dealing with our own stuff and we might pull away, but we still love you. We still are happy for you. It's just triggering to us.
Right. Of course. Where are you finding your strength for all this?
Good question. In about November, I had a bit of a mental breakdown with infertility. And I looked at my husband and I said, I don't think I can keep doing this because there's no end in sight. And when do we say that we're going to take a break? Maybe not quit, but take a break. And so that started me on this path to going, how do you take a break? Like, how do you do that? How do I stop thinking about fertility? And so I set a goal for myself, and this is ultimately where currently my strength is coming from. I said, I want to take a 2-year break and I want to train for a full Ironman at the end of 2023. I guess the strength is in distraction currently.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of wondered if that's a healthy thing to do. But for me right now, it's healthy because I don't even want to call it distraction. It was more a replacement. Like, you can't just say this huge piece of your world that has been a huge mental thing for you. You've spent 90% of your life thinking about, like, every single thing in our world was about fertility. It was the first filter for everything. What I ate, where we traveled, what races I could do, what everything I could do. Even what clothes I wore, like what they're made out of and like chemicals and like everything was fertility. How do you go from thinking 90% about that to just nothing? Like, you don't think about nothing. You have to replace with something else. So I said, okay, I'm going to replace it with this big, crazy, ridiculous athletic goal. And then when I am feeling, and I've done this multiple times now and it's been awesome. When I'm feeling down about fertility, like one day I saw like 3 different pregnancy announcements on Facebook. I just went to the gym. I'm just going to go do a light workout. This is me moving towards my goal.
Yeah.
Whether it's going on a walk, going on a jog, going to the gym, going for a swim, doing something else, being active in that and not just sitting in front of the computer, being mad about why isn't it my turn? And I recognize that could get to an unhealthy level when you start abusing your body in an athletic way. And I'm aware that could be a problem, but that's the current way that I'm finding strength, is just acknowledging those feelings and going, I'm not going to sit in those. I'm going to do something else that I know I can be proud of my body, because I'm very unhappy with my body and fertility. So I can be happy with my body if I go work out.
Is your husband suffering the way you are?
Yeah. Is he upset about it? Yes and no, I would say. So men are so stoic. I have felt for the last 5.5 years that he's been sad that I'm sad, but not really sad on his own.
Yeah.
And recently he had a few friends from college all announce that they were either having babies or just had a baby or were on their second or third. And he kind of had that moment of wait a second, you guys are all moving on. We're not the guys anymore. You guys are all dads and I'm not. It was kind of the first time that he had acknowledged, I think I'm kind of sad about this. This isn't what I want.
I wonder if you feel angry or whatever emotion at people who so dang easily have children and aren't good parent or don't even want the kids.
We call those the ugly feelings. At first, I felt really guilty for having feelings like that because, again, I grew up in a very religious background. Jealousy is bad. Pride is bad. Envy is bad. Anger is bad. And it's taken me a long time to go, they're just feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to feel them.
Yeah.
Probably bad to act on them, but it's okay to be mad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset, but do something healthy with that. Don't do something unhealthy with it. You know, it's interesting. Since I have been sharing and talking a lot more about this, I have not felt those as much. I read a lot of books on like meditation and releasing emotion and energy and all this stuff. And I was like, this is so woo-woo-y. Like, this stuff is ridiculous. This doesn't work. But since I started talking about it and acknowledging these feelings and going, okay, I'm really pissed off right now, and that's okay. I'm just going to like look at it here in my hand and see that emotion. And I'm going to go do something more healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like go for a walk, go play with my dog, go clean the kitchen, something that's healthy with that. I feel like I have been learning how to release those emotions, to feel them and to release them, which I thought was such a woo-woo-y like concept at first, but it's worked for me.
Right.
So I had huge flashes of anger. And this is one of the reasons I decided I think we need to take a break. I'd be having a great day. It'd be fine. And then I would see some parent screaming at their kid in the store and this kid with dirty clothes on. And I would just go, that's not what I would do. And I'm sure every person that doesn't have kids is like, we all have ideas of what we would do with other people's children. Like, I get that. But I just went, why do they get to have a kid and I don't get to have a kid? When I want a child, I would be like really angry. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not an angry person and I would be really angry. These flashes of anger, this is not healthy. I've got to do something with this. So since I've been able to acknowledge it and recognize it, it's been a lot better. Yeah.
I have a tiny sprinkling of an inkling of what you're going through. I mean, I don't know anything about what you're feeling, but when I went through menopause and I stopped having my period, there was a 1 second, oh my gosh, I can never have kids.
It's not an option.
For a tiny 1/2 of a second, I kind of understand that it wasn't an option, and it actually made me sad. And it's not even something I want. It's just that the choice was taken away. And I think that's what you're saying. I think.
Yeah. I have learned that I'm a big control freak. Mm-hmm. And in my life and in my business, I was and I am very good at setting goals and putting systems and processes in place to reach those goals, whether it be athletic things or in our business or in our house, like how I want systems to run. And fertility was the first time that I could control every single variable and still not be successful. That was a really hard thing to come to grips with, like that piece alone, that you don't have any control at all through sharing and just being open about it. I think I'm doing a lot better with that, of just acknowledging feeling a little out of control today. I had this bit of sadness today and I thought, oh man, that sucks. But my sister had a baby a year ago. And so the baby is 1 now. And I'm very happy for my sister. Took me a while to get there, but I'm very happy for her. But the sadness was, oh my gosh, that baby isn't going to have any cousins its age. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing you can do about that. I'm the next closest one to being able to have kids. Mm-hmm. I have 2 other siblings and they're not going to have kids, I don't think, anytime soon. And that made me sad for my niece.
Yeah.
I just feel like I failed you as an auntie to not be able to give you a friend, because I grew up with cousins my age and that was really wonderful. And now I'm really good friends with them. And I had to kind of sit there in that sadness for a second and go, okay, yep, that's sad. That's sad. That doesn't make you a failure. Like, that's not the end of the world.
Thank you for saying that. It doesn't make you a failure. You're not failing at all. Your body isn't producing a child, but that doesn't make you a failure.
Yeah.
Your emotions have a right to life. And I just love that I'm allowed to feel all the feelings and then be mature about them. But at some point, feel the feelings because we're human. To acknowledge them is where the healing comes.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too.
Have you made many friends in a community that you had never expected to?
You know, what's interesting is that I feel like I've gotten to know my current friends better. I don't know if you know this stat or not, but 25% of pregnancies end in miscarriage, and 25% of people will experience unexplained infertility. So 1 in 4 people will have no reason why they can't have a kid. That's a really high number.
Yeah.
And when we started going through this, I kind of thought 25% of pregnancies was 25% of people, but no, like 25% of pregnancies. And a lot of women can get pregnant 2 to 3 times a year. So they could have a miscarriage and then get pregnant again, have a miscarriage again, get pregnant again, have a miscarriage again. When I started sharing my story, hundreds of people that I know already, friends from high school, current friends, friends from Facebook I haven't talked to, my parents' friends, my sisters, in-laws, they've all messaged me and said, here's my story.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly have been blown away. And that whole, like, your souls kind of come together through grieving. Like, I think that I've made a lot more really true, deep connections with people that I already knew, because all of a sudden we were just able to be sad together and not just go have drinks and be happy at happy hour, but go, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
Are you okay today? And I hope that it's made me a better friend too, because I've been exposed to a lot more things to do and not do around people to be aware of, and perspectives that I still don't know, but I can learn through their stories too, and be able to hopefully be a support where they don't have a support system. And I know I'm being kind of cryptic here because I don't want to like make anybody mad, but there's just a lot of stuff that people go through in the infertility world that is really traumatizing and creates a lot of pain in relationships. A lot of divorces happen because of infertility, actually. I don't know if you know that, but that's a pretty big cause.
Do you think there's shame?
A huge shame.
Mm-hmm.
Huge shame. Oh my gosh. And I think it's different for different people, but in my family, my husband is the last son. He's the only son in his family. And so not being able to have a child is like this whole not being able to carry on the lineage thing.
Yeah.
Which he actually doesn't care about very much, but I feel that burden.
Mm-hmm.
Where does this shame come from? Like, I think it's partially there, but I also think that in stories of old, whether they be Bible stories or just old tales, there's a lot of shame on barren women. There's a lot of women that are kind of cast aside in the Bible because they couldn't have a child. And so the man found another partner, another wife, another person who could provide his lineage. And I think that that's like really deep rooted in a lot of women.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Termination for medical reasons is a very shame-filled topic for a lot of women, where it's not a viable pregnancy. And there's a lot of people that disagree with what's viable and what's not. There's a lot of pressure from people to throw your hands up and let God decide.
Uh-huh.
And I know women who've had to do selective reductions or TFMR, termination for medical reasons, and they are unable to tell anyone about it.
Right. Are you angry like people who just knock out kids and don't want them with people who have abortions?
I have not evaluated that before, if I'm being honest. I haven't really thought about that before.
I had an abortion at 16 and there's a lot of shame with, I don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Because, you don't know where people stand on it.
My first reaction was to say, no, I am not mad or upset about women who make their own decisions on that. And then I had to think, okay, why am I not upset about that? Maybe I should be upset about that, because you're right. These are people that
can and don't.
That can and don't. I recognize and understand that everyone has different trauma and pain. And I don't know why the other person, why you're making the decision that you're making.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not my right to judge that. And I think even when I see those parents in the store that are, bad parents, or they're saying, oh, we didn't even want a kid and then we had a caboose or whatever, I kind of go, I'm not angry at them. I'm more like angry at the hand I was dealt. Like,
yeah,
how come you get it and I don't? Not necessarily how dare you do that thing.
I understand that. Yeah.
I'm definitely on the side of, I don't know what's going on with you. So you make the best choice and decision that you can in that moment. And that's for you. I would love for women to be able to talk more about what they feel so shameful about and they feel like they can't share because of judgment.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story and to blog about it and let people know that they're not the only ones.
As you were saying that, I was thinking about this really good friend of mine who had to have a termination for medical reasons. And she did try to share about it. And she got so judged and she got so shamed by her community. She just clammed right up and said, nope, I'm not talking about that ever again. I obviously can't tell people. There is value in being able to tell your story, share your shameful secret in a community that is willing to also share and be vulnerable. When you share something like infertility, like sexual abuse, like an abortion or TFMR, selective reduction, whatever your shame-filled secret is, the other person's worldview is oftentimes challenged. They're being put in this position to go, well, I don't agree with that for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the choice to be empathetic or not. And most people are going, well, if I'm empathetic, they're going to think that I'm agreeing with them and they're going to think that it's okay to do this. And I don't agree with that. So I don't want them to think that it's okay for whatever. It's the same idea with grief. Sometimes it's just okay to say, that's a lot that you are going through.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Are you okay?
We just need to be soft spots for people to land and try not to bring our judgment into it. And definitely, like you're saying, do not give advice that is not solicited.
Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook, and she wrote the book Lean In, and then her husband died. And she wrote a book with Adam Grant called Option B. And her husband died very suddenly, very unexpectedly. This book, Option B, is about grief and trauma. And I read that book, and that really helped me relate to people who are going through grief. And it actually is what made me realize I was grieving, and I didn't even realize I was grieving.
Yeah, yeah.
But she talks about that, like, what are the do's and don'ts of grief? And how does our brain work with all of this? And how do you figure out what to say and what not to say?
Oh, good, good. I'll read that. That's great.
It's a really good one. Sometimes it's okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be better later. It will be. It might not be perfect. It might not be what you imagined. Disappointment is missed expectations, and learning to just acknowledge that and see that. I very much attached happiness to a specific goal, a specific achievement. I'll be happy when, I'll be happy if. That's a really silly way to think, because there's always reasons to be unhappy and there's always reasons to be happy. And it's not the toxic side of it, of only being happy, but recognizing that sometimes it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to cry in the corner.
For somebody who likes to be in control, that must be a real revelation for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm the person that's always supposed to have everything all planned out and together, all the lists or all the organization, yeah.
As a 54-year-old woman, I do know that nothing ever turns out the way you planned. And that's a really nice place to finally sink into. Well, I'm going to go along and hope it works out, but it might not.
And that's okay.
And it's okay. Thanks for your ratings and reviews. We'll be back next week with a new episode. Stay tuned.
Is it Hera or Hara? I hope I didn't mess it up.
It doesn't matter, but it's Hara, like happy and hat.
Yeah, Hera. Okay.
Everybody on the West Coast, which is where I live.
Hara.
Hara.
It's horrible.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Well, I hope I got it right. And I was conscious of it too. I was like, oh shit, this isn't a no-brainer. I don't know.